There's a specific moment that happens inside a person right before they go emotionally cold. It's not loud. There's no screaming, no dramatic breakdown, no smashed glass. It's quiet, almost peaceful. It's the moment they stop expecting anything from anyone. Have you ever felt that shift inside yourself? That quiet day when you didn't decide to shut down. You just realized you already had? We usually think emotional coldness is something people are born with. The word cold makes us imagine a personality flaw, someone distant, someone who can't feel. But after watching people long enough, you start to notice a different truth. Most people don't start out cold. They become cold, and the path that takes them there is never what you expect. Let's start with the obvious guess, because it's the one most people get wrong. You might think emotional coldness comes from too much pain. And yes, that's part of it, but not the way you imagine. Pain alone doesn't freeze a person. If that were true, everyone who's ever been heartbroken or betrayed would turn into a statue. But they don't. Most people heal. They cry, they talk, they eventually open up again. So what makes the difference? The freezing happens when pain is followed by something even more dangerous: confusion. Think about this. When you understand why someone hurt you, you can process it. You can get angry, forgive, or walk away. But when you can't make sense of it, when someone you trusted betrays you without a clear reason, or when love turns to silence overnight, your brain doesn't just feel sad, it feels unsafe. And an unsafe mind doesn't ask, how do I feel better? An unsafe mind asks, how do I make sure this never happens again? That's the seed of emotional coldness. Not hate, not weakness. Strategic self-protection. Here's where it gets interesting. The emotionally cold person isn't someone who stopped feeling. That's the biggest lie we tell ourselves about them. Watch closely. They still feel everything. They just learn to bury the evidence. They stop showing warmth, not because warmth is gone, but because warmth became a liability. Every time they opened up before, someone used it against them. Every time they cared deeply, they paid for it. So they adapt. Not by killing their emotions, but by building a wall so high that even they forget what's behind it. And here's the part most people never realize. Emotional coldness is actually exhausting. It's not a relaxed state of detachment. It's constant vigilance. The cold person is always scanning for threats, always monitoring their own behavior to make sure they don't slip up and care too much. They're not resting. They're surviving. You just can't see the effort because the mask is so well made. You've met people like this. Maybe you've been this person, the friend who suddenly stops reaching out, the partner who used to be soft and now only responds with logic, the parent who went from warm to distant after a divorce. They didn't wake up one morning and choose to become a stranger. They woke up one morning and realized the last time they were vulnerable, it cost them something they couldn't afford to lose again. But wait. There's another layer. Because not all emotional coldness comes from trauma. Some of it comes from clarity. Let me explain. There's a kind of coldness that develops in people who've simply seen too much. Not betrayal necessarily, just repetition. They've watched the same patterns play out over and over. The same small betrayals, the same shallow connections, the same people who say, I'm here for you, but disappear the moment things get heavy. And after a while, being warm starts to feel dishonest. Why smile when you don't feel joy? Why hug when you don't feel connection? Why pretend? This is the more dangerous version of coldness, not the kind born from fear, the kind born from disappointment so deep it turns into resignation. These people don't hate anyone. They just stop believing that emotional warmth actually means anything anymore. And you can't argue someone out of that position, because for them, it's not a belief, it's data. Here's a question worth sitting with. Is emotional coldness always a problem? Or is it sometimes the correct response to an environment that punishes softness? Think about certain workplaces, certain families, certain social circles where being emotional is seen as weak, manipulative, or inconvenient. In those spaces, coldness isn't a flaw, it's a survival strategy. And the people who stay warm in those environments aren't necessarily stronger. Sometimes they're just the ones who haven't been burned badly enough yet. But here's the twist that changes everything. Most cold people don't want to be cold. They want someone to prove them wrong. They want one person who won't use their vulnerability as ammunition. But here's the tragedy they live with every day. By the time they meet that person, they've forgotten how to let them in. The walls are so old, so thick, so automatic, that even when love knocks sincerely, They don't recognize the sound anymore. That's the quiet heartbreak of emotional coldness. It's not that you can't feel, it's that you've lost the map back to your own heart, and you're too tired to draw a new one. So what do we do with this? If you see this in yourself, don't try to force warmth. Forced warmth is just another mask. Instead, just notice. Notice the moments you shut down before anyone hurt you. Notice the assumptions you make about people before they've proven anything. Notice how often you choose being right over being close. And if you see this in someone else, don't try to melt them. That never works. The worst thing you can do to a cold person is demand they warm up for you. That feels like an attack. Instead, just be consistent. Show up. Don't push. Don't take their distance personally. Let them see slowly that not every hand reaches out to take something. Some hands just stay open and wait. If you've made it this far, you're someone who thinks deeply about why people become who they are. That's rare. And if this kind of exploration into the hidden sides of human nature speaks to you, consider subscribing. Not because YouTube wants you to, but because there are more conversations like this waiting. And the quiet ones who think about these things, they need to know they're not alone. So here's my question for you in the comments. Not the shallow version, the real one. Have you ever gone cold to protect yourself? And if you look back honestly, did it work? Or did it just cost you more than the pain ever would? Let me know, because the answer to that question tells you more about yourself than almost anything else.